A little bit of a continuation pattern starting to form here for Bitcoin. Obviously, we started a kind of super short-term downtrend, I think, from this 110, 112k all-time high. And since then, we managed to fall down into a really, really nice area of support that we were already expecting. I think a lot of people were probably looking for a much more bearish weekend, but, we're now coming toward the end of this Sunday trading session here. Not actually that long left on this candle. There's only about 6 hours left at the time of recording. And it's actually been largely uneventful. I think one of the bigger things that we have seen over this weekend is Bitcoin's dominance starting to, set new highs, especially compared to that local high right here, and getting closer to that 65.4% cycle top that we've seen so far. So that's all really, really interesting. There's definitely some cool developments that we're going to be getting into in this YouTube video. If you're excited for them, do me a favor and smash up those likes, double check that you're subscribed, of course, and check out 𝗦𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪 for more exclusive chart setup updates from the team. It is a very robust exchange. It's exactly what you're used to as far as proving one-to-one reserves, so you don't have to worry about them, pulling an FTX on you, and you get some really, really cool bonuses as well. So check it out if you're not from any restricted regions. But really, really cool here because we're bouncing off a level that we're expecting to find support at, which is $103,000, and we're doing it slowly. So, all of that to me basically points toward this being a, typical continuation pattern before this thing continues to drop lower, which is absolutely fantastic because if we were seeing a steeper drop, then it's a little bit more unpredictable about where we might go. But we can start to measure strength here, right? Like the fact that the market is responding to this 103K level, which, to be honest, is not actually like a crazy support level, right? Like we were not expecting this level to change the game for Bitcoin by any means, but we were aware of it. And so when we're kind of, bouncing off these, shall I say, mediocre support levels, and when we're doing it, in nice kind of controlled, slow fashions, that to me is actually just going to basically be pointing toward this being a, super healthy kind of consolidation pattern that's probably going to take us down to our next, mediocre support level. But the good news for us is it's not actually mediocre because it's literally $100,000. That's the level of support that we're potentially looking at next on this chart right here. And I think we can see that pretty clearly just by, all of the wicks and candles kind of falling from this level or bouncing off this level. So that totally makes sense for me as part of a kind of larger pullback if that's what the market wants to do. Now, obviously, the last S&P 500 trading session that we saw on the daily here, on the 4-hour here, was basically continuing to paint some consolidation, which definitely to me indicates that this thing is going to be going higher, right? I was covering with you guys on the last video, and those of you that are subscribed are going to be very familiar with this idea now, that, the last kind of correction that the S&P 500 had, it kind of started right here, toward kind of the middle of April. And so, it's now, 45 days later, basically, it totally makes sense for me that, basically mid-May, the S&P 500 starts producing another correction, and we're kind of, toward the resolution of that now in early June. We're in June now, by the way, so yeah, there's a shocker. So, I think that definitely, kind of makes sense as far as kind of telling me that the S&P 500 might be continuing to go up. But you know what? If it continues to, just kind of consolidate a little bit, that's totally fine too. There's definitely room for it to continue to kind of coil up in this range. I don't want to see it dropping below kind of 5,800 at this point because we've had some really good consolidation. So actually dropping below this level now would be a sign of weakness to me. But it's something that we'll keep an eye on nonetheless. Bitcoin, by comparison, if the S&P is going to still kind of, just hang around a little bit and figure itself out, Bitcoin has a really, really nice chart set up, like I said, to kind of fall down to this $100,000 psychological zone of support, which I'm actually quite excited for on this chart right here. Now, we took a brief look at Bitcoin's dominance, and what I really like about Bitcoin's dominance is that it's seeing these really nice, healthy pullbacks where altcoin holders are being lulled into yet again another, honestly, at this point, it is kind of sad, sense of belief, basically, that, their altcoins are going to be pumping up quite high, right? Obviously, these people are completely deluded, but that's most of the crypto market right now. And so what the market is doing is continuing to kind of pummel those market participants, right? I mean, the biggest example of it recently, and it's not even that recent anymore because this is like 6-7 months ago now, believe it or not, was right after Trump got elected. We saw a really nice big drop on Bitcoin's dominance all the way from 62% more or less down to about 55%. So big drop here. That's a 7-point drop in percent, which I think is definitely a big deal. And we saw something else, similar here. But again, with these, kind of mini alt seasons that are happening where everybody's kind of jumping back on the bandwagon, it's not working out, and that liquidity is getting sucked back into Bitcoin. So actually, as far as kind of, developments for a chart would go, this is more or less exactly what you would expect if you think that, Bitcoin's dominance is going to keep going higher, right? We're not necessarily expecting, a staircase to heaven that always goes like this. We are going to be expecting, that sometimes there are going to be some, moments of relief, and then, you kind of continue going up like that, right? So that's obviously how all charts tend to behave, and I don't think that the Bitcoin dominance chart is any different in that way. But what it does mean is that we're starting to get some really nice opportunities forming in the altcoins again, okay? So we were taking a look at Trump recently, and it ended up bouncing off this purple box that I was expecting with you guys here on this YouTube channel, which is super, super cool. So again, make sure that you are staying tuned. And by the way, if that's the kind of thing that interests you, because that's definitely what interests me as far as kind of the more interesting, actionable, relevant stuff on the charts, that is exactly what 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪 subscribers are getting right here. So those of you that do sign up to 𝗙𝗢𝗟 and get those exclusive chart setups from us, that is exactly what you're getting on 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗍𝗓, posted regularly, stuff that we don't even share on this YouTube channel or on Telegram. So that's super, super cool, because this stuff is obviously quite actionable. We're bouncing off that support, which I think is cool. I do think that we can come back down to this level. Also, I should say, don't use it if you're not from a restricted region, of course, as we already know. But yeah, I think that this is a very, very nice support level that Trump might definitely be returning down to, especially if Bitcoin is going to be falling back down to that $100,000 price level. As far as Solana, which I think I've also been watching quite closely lately, it's been slipping a little bit lower, but still in honestly quite a good zone of support, right? I mean, if we kind of zoom out and take a look at this, I mean, we've lost the 160 level by about $5, right? So we're not perfect anymore, but we're not really in any zone that's going to be concerning me. Like I said, I mean, this thing can drop down to 120 and it's actually still going to be in pretty good posture as far as I'm concerned. I'm quite happy with the idea that, Solana does something a little bit like this, especially given that it already had this nice big swing failure pattern at the bottom. I can definitely expect that something like this is going to be in play. But again, we're talking about larger corrections, which at the moment, I don't think that we have, reason to believe is going to happen, right? Like, I think that, we're doing pretty well, and actually, obviously, pretty much wholly dependent on the S&P 500. If things do start to kind of turn around with tomorrow's trading session, then this is kind of the worst I can see happening, and honestly not even, right? I mean, there's not that long until the S&P 500 opens now, and if Bitcoin can just kind of hold its posture right here, which it's already done for the last couple of days now, depending on if we close this in the next 5.5 hours at this price level, that's going to be a pretty good kind of sign of strength for us to say that actually if the S&P kind of wakes up, then this is it. That's the shallow pullback that you're getting. You're not even back testing the 100K level, and we're more or less back to all-time highs. So the atmosphere is perfect for it. Absolutely nobody is feeling happy about the market or optimistic, and I can't think of a better environment for all-time highs to be set, given my understanding and my 8 years of experience in these markets, and of course my understanding of just the psychology of these markets and how stupid people tend to be. To me, all of this kind of continues to ring true as far as kind of what I would be expecting to tell me that sentiment is setting us up for that next leg. Let's take a look at Bitcoin's Fear and Greed Index, crypto's Fear and Greed Index. We haven't looked at this for a little bit. I really like this. We've reset back down into neutral territory, which I think is a really, really big deal. We spent, a fair bit of time in greedy territory for, this period here. If we zoom out onto the yearly, we had this nice big peak right here in April, and obviously we were down a little bit, and then this was kind of the response to Trump, where we got actually quite high into extreme greed at some points as well. We've now effectively reset back to neutral territory, but we're higher, than where we were at some of our peaks. So, that's a big deal, right? Like, you've stuck with me here up until 9.5 minutes into the video, and actually I think this is the biggest point that we're making in the video today is, as far as kind of sentiment goes, because we're not interested in, individual opinions of people. Everybody's stupid, right? I don't care about what people have to say. I don't care about what Twitter has to say, or even comment sections of YouTube videos. None of that is relevant. We can see data in numbers here, and we can just plot that against the chart. And what I think is abundantly clear at this stage, ladies and gents, is that now, this reset back into neutral territory as far as sentiment goes, while we're, within spitting distance of the all-time high, to me, that's a really big deal, telling me that actually we can definitely kind of, get significantly higher from here, because we're reset. We're not really expecting, to be millionaires overnight right now, and I don't think we need to be in fearful territory either. I think that this is plenty. We're in a bull market. We're in a pretty nice bull market. If you just look at the chart instead of, tying your emotions into this like a hormonal teenager, then actually this is a pretty damn healthy chart. I mean, what do you want, right? Like you're moving up nicely, you're consolidating, you're moving up nicely, you're consolidating. It's the same shit over and over. It's obviously a super healthy chart, and now we're seeing, the sentiment, reset, right? So, again, it's just looking good. One of the things that you're going to see on I had someone comment on this YouTube channel the other day, and it was a really interesting comment, right? Because this was a regular viewer. He's clearly been around for a long time, and he said that before he even opens the video, he knows what I'm going to say, which is that I'm probably going to say that the market is good and we're probably going up. And he's like, you've been saying this for the last year. And it's like, well, yes, I have, motherfucker. We've been going up for the last couple of years. So, I'm not upset about saying the same thing over and over, because I've been 100% correct at every single stage in the market and with profits to show for it. So, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm not upset by that. Maybe it's a little bit repetitive, but markets are repetitive like that, right? Like, if you're, if you're trying to, sign on to YouTube and watch people talking about analysis that, absolutely blows you away with the newest, fringe indicator, then go for it, right? But you're looking for entertainment in that case, right? And I'm not really here for entertainment. I'm here to make money. I get my entertainment from my Ferrari parked downstairs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just different that way. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I have my priorities in the wrong place. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe you guys can be the judge of that in the comment section. But obviously, I think this is a big deal, and the fact that commenter said it, it's worth bringing it up, because a lot of people. It's not about what we're saying on the Four Flies channel. That's honestly secondary to the point. The main point here, ladies and gents, is that if you're taking that kind of attitude, then what you're looking for in the markets is entertainment, not profit. If you want profit, then actually it's a really quiet, boring path. It's a really quiet, boring thing that you'd be doing here, because the market hasn't changed too much, so you can't be changing too much if you're doing what's working. And that's okay, because you're making money, right? We're not here for entertainment, hopefully. We're here to just make profits. And if that's our approach, then actually, repeating the same thing over the last couple of years would be the only thing that would have made you money. And I think that's really, really important, because you got to ask yourself what you're here for. And if you feel like you're here for anything other than making shitloads of money, then you don't belong on the Four Flies channel. We're not interested in that. We're interested in literally just getting rich, mate. It's quite straightforward here. And we really do put our money where our mouth is. So super, super cool stuff. Check out those links in the description if you are interested. If you want to work one-to-one, we've got a very, very interesting program for you guys with a phenomenal success rate of clients that have come in pulling off amazing results after joining this program. It is an intense program. It lasts 12 weeks and it is expensive. But if it's something that you think you might be interested in, then feel free to reach out with this direct contact link and a member of the team will reach out to you. But yeah, super, super cool stuff. Check out LevX for exclusive chart updates. Again, if you're not from a restricted region, make sure you like, subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. And we will see you all very, very shortly. Cheers.